Hey guys, I'm Adrian.
And I'm Steve, and welcome to the Tide Podcast.
Yeah, we're recording live from the basement of the that church thingy on Little St. James Island. We came here after Mr. Epstein ended up killing himself. Looking for a bunch of cool stuff, hoping that we could grab that Bill Clinton painting, but seems like it had already been ransacked by the FBI. Unfortunately, did you see that painting that I'm talking
Hey,
about?
how are we doing today? What's going on? We're now on iTunes.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have
we're on iTunes,
our,
so
our first
hopefully you guys checked
season
out.
3, episode 1 on iTunes. Yep.
Yeah, yep. We got the first one on there. I'm gonna work on getting some of our backlog on there as well. So hopefully those go. We can get those up, and then you guys can check those out if you're new to the show. Um, but besides that, we're also gonna be trying to get this season on YouTube as well, since we know that a lot of you guys were listening to it there, so that we can we
Yeah.
can have them everywhere, right?
Yeah. Well, I normally I was the one that was uploading the videos to YouTube, and unfortunately both my computers crapped out, and I was using Windows Movie Maker, so now Adrian is the one who's spearheading the uploads. So we just need to get the software to work so we can get everything back up and running on our YouTube channel. But in the meantime, you can enjoy us on iTunes. It's kind of neat to say that, like we're on iTunes.
I know, right?
That's
Like
neat.
we started this as
Uh,
like a joke, and then like now we're
right.
on iTunes. We have sponsors, and we're looking at other
We made it,
sponsors.
Mom.
So yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a top fan on at least 20 pages on Facebook. So it's a pretty big deal, right?
Right. God, I can't wait to see the look on my mom's face when she's there on iTunes. She sees, oh, what is this Tide podcast? Like, oh my God, that's my son.
Oh man.
Oh, the look of love.
We made it, Ma.
We made it, Mom. We really done it. Um, sorry, I do have a bit of a sniffle, so if I'm a little wheezy and hacking, it's because there is a little bug going around. And I was feverish last night. I took some knockout medicine, and I woke up feeling a lot better. My fever's gone, but still a little wheezy. So just bear with me, guys. I'm not full 100%. I do work tonight, so I'm just trying to rest up. So that said, um, what are we talking about tonight? What are we doing?
So we got a few things to talk about. We've had that thing that you've been spearheading and trying to get off the ground. So we'll go into that a little bit later. But we'll give it a little intro by talking about multiverses. So
Yes.
as you guys know, if you guys are a fan of comic books, there
Mm-hmm.
are in both the DC and the Marvel universes, there are multiverses or different parallel universes. That whole idea. One of the things that's kind of exciting right now is that the DC TV shows are gearing up to do their annual multiverse crossover episode like they do every year.
Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, it should be cool. They're bringing in like all sorts of people from all the old DC shows. They've got some
Kevin
Smallville
Conroy.
people.
They're bringing in Burt Ward. They're
Yeah,
bringing in Mark Hamill.
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy.
It should be really cool. But basically,
Yeah, it should kind of.
at a very basic level, what it is the theory that your Earth exists along with multiple other Earths where you could have multiple versions of yourself along those different universes or Earths, and you could be slightly different or you could be very different. You could look the same. You could be a completely different person. You could be a male. You could be a female. Like there could be all sorts of different versions of you throughout these different universes and different Earths or whatever you want to call it.
I mean, it could be something as simple as I've had something completely different in this other universe, but everything else still lines up accordingly. So
Yeah.
it's literally potentially an infinite amount of universes. Rick and Morty actually does a really good job at touching on that. If you're a fan of the show, I love Rick and Morty, but it touches a lot on the multiverse. That's kind of the whole premise of the show. And there's one scene where Rick is talking to the family, and he's talking to Summer, his granddaughter, and he says something along the lines of, "We're having the same exact conversation in infinite amount of universes or timelines or whatever."
Huh.
And she farts or something, and he says, "Okay, well, that's funny. That's always funny," or something like that. So it's just interesting to try to wrap your mind around something that's potentially infinite.
Right.
With the possibility that there could be a universe where I'm a billionaire and the world is mine. Blah, ha, ha, ha. And, here I am in this world, just on the couch watching BattleBots and eating pho. So,
how are you watching BattleBots? Like, did you go like on YouTube or something? Or like, do you have an old VHS?
Yes, I have an old VHS.
That's funny.
But actually, BattleBots is back on.
Oh, is it? Is it like new episodes and shit?
Oh yeah, brand new episodes.
Oh, that's wild.
So much better than what it used to be, because now the robots are actually like, they're agile, they're fast, they allow for like flamethrowers and everything. Some use drones which get smacked out of the air and exploded. It's pretty awesome.
Dude, do you remember Z-Bots?
Z-Bots?
Yeah.
Maybe?
There were those little like micro machine type things, and they were little robots.
Oh yeah.
Oh, man, those things fucking ruled. We were probably in like third or fourth grade when that shit was hot.
There's a universe somewhere out there in the multiverse where that is still alive and running.
Yeah. A Z-Bot is our president.
Right. BattleBots is still going. It's a great show. There are some builders from the original series when it was on Comedy Central that are back. Of course, I remember most of them, and I remember their bots and whatnot, because I was a huge fan when this came out when I was in high school. Anyway, so I digress. That's a whole other, whole other thing.
That's a whole other episode. But yeah, so even
maybe that'll be next week's episode. But anyway, so the multiverse, yeah. So it's interesting. Now I remember. Somebody's going to listen to this and probably correct me, but I remember mathematically that science can predict up to 7 different dimensions other than ours. Something like that, where just when they're looking through all the equations and whatnot, like 7 is like the number. Like, okay, we can definitely show that there can be 7 other dimensions out there. Somebody's going to correct me on that, but have you heard anything like that along those lines?
Yeah, definitely. There was a podcast that I used to listen to where they were actually talking about oh shit, like the idea of like interdimensional beings and fuck, what they were calling them something weird. It wasn't like extraterrestrials. I think it was like interdimensional terrestrials or some shit like. Yeah, so that was the idea, and in that they were actually talking about the multiple dimensions and how, like, mathematically you can theorize that there could be a plane of existence where things could exist that we can't see, and that maybe they can't see us, or maybe they can, and it's just highly evolved beings. And there's some theories where that may actually be what aliens are. They're just these like interdimensional beings that are popping in and out of our existence. There's also some theories that that could be what ghosts or spirits are, or things that we don't always see, or when you think you see something out of the corner of your eye and you turn and it's gone, or maybe even like Bigfoot or shit like that. Like all those cryptozoological animals. Like maybe some of those could be interdimensional beings. Like that's why we don't find like Bigfoot bones or like chupacabra bones or anything like that.
Well, there's people who speculate that when you're under the influence of, let's say, like DMT or psilocybin, that the
Yeah,
entities that you encounter are actually extra dimensional, and that especially with DMT, where you feel like you're Doctor Strange, your soul out of your body. The entities that you encounter are actually these extra dimensional beings, just kind of giving insight and whatnot. So,
right.
um, pretty interesting. Because I mentioned this on a previous episode, but that little doodad in your brain that contains the DMT.
The
Like,
third eye or
we're
whatever.
flesh and blood. There's energy that goes through us, electrical energy and whatnot. Is it like a TV where once we're dead that it's just gone, or is it like we're the receiver and once our body ceases to exist, does our energy still get broadcast somewhere?
Right.
And if so, where is that coming from? Is it from here? Or is it like something outside of our realm of comprehension? Who knows? But definitely encountered some weird things, whether ghosts or whatnot, that it could possibly be some type of extra dimensional type of entity. Who knows? It's a fascinating subject.
Yeah, and
Definitely.
it's something that's pretty hard to study, like, right? Like, how can you prove like that kind of stuff? Like, we probably don't have the technology to be able to measure something like that. And then there are more studies being done with things like DMT and psilocybin, especially now that some of that stuff is being decriminalized a lot more.
Decriminalized.
So
Right.
hopefully that can lead to a lot more studies, and maybe we can start looking further into things like this, and maybe start figuring some of this out. And even if that doesn't end up being the case, there are a lot of studies out there that we know of already that show that things like DMT and psilocybin can be very helpful for healing and to help come over like traumatic experiences and to help deal with things like PTSD and depression and stuff like that. So that is
Right.
another positive of things like that.
So, in your studies of the ancient text, do they mention anything about the multiverse at all? I mean, I'd like to think that the aliens that we see, like the alien greys, blue
Yeah.
lizard people, and all that, just our universe is so unfathomably large that it's mathematically improbable for there to not be other life outside of Earth.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
where it gets into the extra dimensional, I'm thinking that's where like the ghosts, the demons, and whatnot, that would be more their thing, where they exist in our world, but they're almost like Stranger Things, where it's like
The upside down. Yeah.
we have our world, and then there's like a mirror version of that universe.
Right. You
But
know,
who knows? I mean, who's to really say? But it's definitely interesting to sit and think about.
yeah. And
But
like,
that's kind of what I'm thinking. Where like the alien grays, those are definitely within our universe, if you will. But
right.
if you look at like the ghosts and demons, where they pop up within our space,
Yeah.
and yet they're here and they're gone.
Yeah.
Like where do
Popping
they
in and
come
out of
to?
our
Like
plane of
that
existence, I
that seems
guess.
more extra dimensional to me. That
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
Right. And like looking at all the ancient texts and stuff that I've been reading, I don't think that I've really come across anything where they talk about you know uh, other dimensions or anything like that. I don't know that that would really be a concept that they would have you know really been able to I guess conceptualize a concept that they could conceptualize. But yeah,
Right.
I don't know that that's something that really would have like crossed their mind. I think they really thought in things more in terms of like heaven or like the underworld and stuff like that, and like other planets.
Hmm.
But I mean, maybe as a because I am starting like way back, like beginning of like civilization. I think maybe as I progress throughout history and start looking at some of the stuff that's still old but a little bit more modern, within the past few hundred years as opposed to the past several thousand years, we may start getting into more things like that because it, there is always the possibility that that stuff was around back then. It's just our ancient ancestors just didn't have or couldn't conceptualize that and just didn't understand it because there's always the idea that some of the stuff that they were seeing back then that they thought was were like angels or demons were really just could have been like extraterrestrials or just beings from other planets, things like that, and UFOs,
Well,
like thinking that
I
they're like
forget what
chariots or whatever.
Bible verse it is, but there's a verse somewhere in the Bible. If somebody out there is going to listen to this and quote me and and find it, but there's a verse where they're describing what angels look like, and they said that they're covered in eyes,
Yeah,
and that's 100% either describing a psilocybin or DMT entity because they all have just what appears to be eyes just all over them. It's just very odd. So maybe it is something that is extra dimensional.
right.
I mean, just off that description alone, that's 1,000% describing either somebody who's under the effects of psilocybin or DMT.
There are theories that what actually gave humans consciousness and helped us evolve. I believe it's called the stoned ape theory. Was that they were doing things like smoking some of the plants that were around back then, or eating mushrooms. There's actually a theory that the apple, the famous apple from Eden that Adam and Eve ate was actually not an apple. It was actually a mushroom, a psilocybin mushroom, and that unlocked something in their brain. I believe there's a book that goes into it that I still need to pick up. I believe it's called the Sacred Crown and Mushroom, or the Sacred Mushroom and Crown, or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting theory. It's something that I do want to research further because that, I mean, it does kind of make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's from knowing what I know now about those sorts of things, it definitely lines up to what these ancient cultures described as these angels and demons and these types of entities.
Right.
And again,
And
as you're experiencing these things, it's definitely not something that's in the physical. It's definitely something that's in the extra dimensional type feeling.
yeah, and then like
It's almost as if like your third eye is opening and you're able to see things around you that are sharing the same space as you, but you can't see them until you're undergoing these certain effects.
right. And we're at the point now where we can kind of understand what things are like a little bit better than our ancestors. And imagine being like one of the first humans, like they're not even really wearing clothes or anything like that, and you accidentally eat the wrong, or I guess in this case the right mushroom, and then bam, consciousness, like.
Right. Well, there's definitely, well, like you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of medical advantages to these particular substances. We're not encouraging the use of any of these, mind you, but it seems like a study become a little bit more common that they're finding more and more good out of these substances than negative for sure.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it does feel like your third eye is opening. Like you actually feel like pressure moving towards your forehead, and then you're just able to kind of experience this completely different world, all while you're either sitting in your living room or just laying in bed. It's really fascinating. It literally feels like you're being transported to a different dimension, if you will, or you're just maybe having a glimpse into the upside down, for lack of a better term, where you're just able to see like your world through this different lens, this different perspective.
So
But
the book was actually called The Sacred Mushroom and Cross, a study of the nature and origins of Christianity by John M. Allegro. If you guys are interested in that.
it's interesting. Definitely have to check that one out. Actually, when you get a chance, send me a link to that, 'cause I'd like to take a look at that.
Yeah. I actually just
So
pulled it up on eBay. There's a copy for $18. That's
nice.
a pretty decent price. And free shipping.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Free shipping?
Yep.
Gotta look free shipping.
Yeah. Man, I've still got a stack of like 12 books that I need to get through. Man.
Yeah.
But that's the life of researching this kind of stuff.
So, what else is there? Just
Well, Disney, I think is, or Marvel specifically, I guess, is starting to play up that angle a bit more. It seems like, and I still haven't even seen the second part of Infinity War, but seems like they probably tapped into that in there, right? They brought in like multiple universe a little bit.
They kind of not exactly. I think Doctor Strange deals more with the multiverse.
Yeah, and like his next movie, I think, is directly involved in that.
Yeah, I would say that Endgame and like the past couple of movies with Thanos deals more with like altered timelines than actual multiverse. But there is definitely multiverse within the MCU. That's courtesy of Doctor Strange. Where
Yeah.
He's literally the keeper of the multiverse, where he's able to travel the multiverse and see these things. And apparently that's what WandaVision and the next Doctor Strange movie is going to be about, is actually delving into the multiverse. But it is interesting to see DC kind of retcon themselves and actually fix themselves for the better and jumping right into Infinite Crisis, hopefully moving on towards putting out better content. Because God, there's no reason why those movies should be awful. They should be so much better, and I'm glad that they are getting better. From Wonder Woman to Shazam, which was a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
And even Aquaman was just a great movie. So if they keep on that road, then it's going to be hopefully give Marvel a run for the money.
Yeah, and we got Joker coming out.
Focus on being themselves, not try to be anything else.
Yeah.
They don't need to be dark and broody. You have Batman to be dark and broody. Shazam should have levity. Superman is a Boy Scout. He shouldn't be like dark and broody. Like we have that. His name is Batman. He's enough dark and broody for everybody. And one of the constantly reoccurring themes in the comics is how everybody makes fun of Batman for being overly dark and broody.
Right.
So,
we do have that Joker movie to look forward to. That's coming out really soon, like 2 months, I think.
Man, I can't wait for that.
Oh, it looks amazing.
I really, of all the comic book movies, I want that one to be like phenomenal. I really do. Sorry, Patty. Joaquin Phoenix as a Joker. Oh,
yeah.
It's gonna be good.
That perfect malnourished body for the role, just looking all sickly.
Oh man. So, anyways, what else have you been working on? I did post a video up on our YouTube about the little project I'm working on. I had nothing to pigeonhole it. I'm usually pretty secretive to the shit that I work on because I'm very self-conscious of my stuff. I don't like people reading my stuff or touching myself. I'm just very guarded with that stuff. But I had the epiphany moment about 2.5 weeks ago where it's like, holy shit, I think I found an outlet.
Right. Well, let's just dive right into it. Let's talk about it.
All right. Oh boy. So.
Well, first, talk how you came up with the idea.
Like, it's such an odd little idea, and then I found out courtesy of my one other friend who sent me a link to a very similar project, but it looks like it's doing really well and actually has a fan base. So the fact that there's a
precedence,
I guess, a market for this type of thing is encouraging. It's just a matter of getting it off the ground. So I used to work entertainment at a theme park, and I had this profound ability to get people engaged and just completely forget that they were in a theme park and do just hilarious things through these narratives, and just I could get families to pretend that they were in this imaginary world. And it was a really cool thing when it was working, and most of the time it did. And God, I could get armies of people, just families and just different, every age group, all these different people just working with me to help my character do something. So with my new job now, I can't afford to do anything like that on my own, at least on the in like the real world, if you will. So that's where I'm like, well, why don't I try to create something online? So what I'm trying to create is a collaborative, shared, imaginary world, for lack of a better term. It's well, we've all had those really cool dreams. We've all envisioned ourselves like in Star Wars or something like that, like flying alongside Skywalker. But it's exactly it. It's just a daydream. It's just a fantasy. Disney will never put you flying next to Luke Skywalker, saving Luke Skywalker's ass, or anything like that. Or you're never going to be able to go and be at Hogwarts unless it's like in fan fiction or something. So what I wanted to do was kind of capitalize on that, where I wanted to create a shared universe where I'll release little narratives to help kind of paint the picture of what's going on in this world, that people are able to inject themselves and tell their own story so they can be their own hero. Or if you don't want to be a hero, you can just fill in a detail or two and just start off with something really little and just expand on it. And that's sort of the crux of what it is I'm working on. So I call it the Quantum Drift, and it's what's nice is that you are you, and that's one thing I was trying to allude to in the beta, because I know a couple people came up with like these backstories for themselves in the real world, and it's like, no, that's not the point of it. The point is that you are you. You are you in this world, and what do you do when you find yourself in this world? You can be anything you want. If you want to be a fighter pilot, cool. Tell me, what do you remember about being a fighter pilot? Who was with you? Who was, who are your wingmen? If you're not sure, maybe somebody else will read what you wrote and they can be like, oh yeah, I was totally one of your wingmen, and then boom, now you have collaboration.
Right.
It's a means to try to get people, total strangers, because how often do you have dreams and you don't recognize the people in your dreams? It happens all the time. Very rarely do I actually see people that I recognize. So what if you had this really cool dream? Man, I'm fighting like Godzilla or space aliens or something, but I was surrounded by people that I don't remember. Well, what if you were to share that? Somebody can read that and be like, oh yeah, I was totally right there with you. I remember doing this, this, and this, and this. Then your story just expanded. And it gets a little bit bigger, and it gets a little bit bigger. And then the whole catch is that I'm releasing these narratives to help paint the picture, but as you guys are building your stories, it'll actually become canon to this universe. So you can, if you want to fight the aliens on this planet, well, great. That's now canon. That happened. So it'll encourage people to read your story that you've come up with, and hopefully you've collaborated with others to help slowly expand this universe. And that'll hopefully inspire them to just make their own, tell their own story. Now, well, what do you remember? That's the whole tagline of this thing. It's currently in beta. I finally came public with the Kickstarter today. I made my first dollar on Kickstarter. Woohoo! I'm rolling in dough. But I did look over the link that my buddy sent me, and it's pretty in depth what people have contributed, and it's really cool to see. And it's a very similar premise to what I'm working on. So I released very, very just broad stroking things. I'm leaving it open to you guys in beta that's going on right now on Facebook to build the homeworlds. And the whole concept of this is that you are you, and at some point you found yourself in this other world. And as you're going through your mundane life and your mind starts to drift, you start remembering little things about what you experienced in this world while you were in it. Yeah, is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to go ramble, but that's kind of the gist of it. So I just released the ninth narrative update, if you will, like minutes before we went live. So you may or may not have had a chance to read it yet. But the whole point is that people read the narratives and they start from the beginning. It's like, okay, well, this guy's describing entering this world. Well, what was it like when I entered this world? What do you remember? Oh, I remember seeing this, this, and this, and this. And then somebody will hopefully read that and be like, oh, yeah, I definitely remember this. I actually saw this. It just gets a little bit bigger, and it gets a little bit bigger with each contribution, to where finally we're able to paint this picture of this world based on this shared collaborative storytelling. Am I done rambling?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very interesting idea. And if any of you guys are in the beta at the moment, I'm also in it. You've probably seen a couple of my posts in there. But yeah, it is pretty cool. I do like the idea of going in and like expanding on other people's like stories, and like I think there was one where you had posted about being a bartender, and then somebody else came in and said like, oh, they were at that bar or whatever, and then I ended up jumping in and saying like I was heading to that bar when I ended up bumping into someone and got in a scuffle, and then ended up going the other way. So little things like that, and it is pretty cool and interesting, and like you're saying, you can kind of go in and inject whatever you want into it.
Yeah, and I have very, very loose rules in this, and I'm kind of actively avoiding posting like direct rules for you guys. That's why I'm encouraging people to very carefully read the narratives that I'm putting out, because it is exposition and cleverly disguised. I think just kind of painting the loose rules, kind of sort of how this universe works a little bit. But it's like the never-ending story meets No Man's Sky.
Hmm.
It's instead of in Fantasia, you are in this you're in a completely different universe. You are in a different galaxy, and it's like, okay, you're here. Well, what do you do from there? Well, realistically, if you poofed into another world, you're not going to just immediately become a space captain. You're going to start off small. So, I mean, everybody wants to just rush themselves to get to, oh yeah, I'm this cool space captain, get to do all this stuff, I'm a hero, blah. It's like, no, you can get there, but how did you get there? What was the processes of which you got there? So through the narratives, I'm kind of telling this story of, because I'm a bartender by trade. So if I'm poofed into another world, I'm not going to immediately become a space captain. No, I'm going to use my skills to kind of establish myself. So that's kind of where my grassroots is right now within this world. And then I know that a couple of my friends are eager beavers to kind of inject themselves and do the stuff. It's like, well, guys, read the narratives first, help that paint the picture and kind of set the tone for what it's like, and then you can build out from there. And I think probably next week I'm going to see if I can get a couple volunteers to participate in kind of like a live drift session where I'll throw out a narrative thing and we can do it live either via a chat section or the comment section, and see what we can make canon. And it's going to be like the first sort of conflict, if you will. trying to figure out how to deal with conflict because there's no like dice rolling or anything. So how does one
Right.
address conflict when you're in this role in this world? So I'm going to see how that goes. Hopefully, it plays out okay. Because what's a good story without conflict?
Yeah.
You need to have a little. There needs to be something to overcome. So, the main bad guys are the alien greys, those scary aliens. I do have everything powered by element 115. It just makes sense. I'm trying to keep it as grounded enough, if you will, with what's going on in our world, because there are other creatures who are there. Whatever your imagination is, those are the aliens that inhabit this massive galaxy. We are not the only ones that are there as people. There are probably thousands and thousands and thousands of different alien races. And the only limit is your imagination. And the other week I did preemptively throw out the penis aliens, the ones that sort of look phallic-y. Because I know there might be that douchebag that'll come along and be like, oh, I thought the dick monster, da, 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 da. So I kind of wanted to passively, if you read that and you're wondering what the fuck is he talking about with like penis alien, I was sort of trying to get ahead of the ball on that one, just trying to preempt the dickhead that will come along and talk about penis aliens. I actually did a little scribble of one of them. They do look kind of phallic-y, but again, trying to keep them grounded. But it was cool that you messaged me the other day and you said that you guys completed your first little like story arc. That was pretty neat. I still haven't really read anything yet. There's 20 something people, almost 30 people in the beta right now, and it's been a little bit of a slow start, but everybody's been busy doing their own shit. But I'm trying to encourage people that you don't have to feel obligated to write a whole all at once. Just you can add in a little detail, or even say, I remember this. That just helps solidify it. Just any sort of interaction or contribution can go a really long way, regardless of how big it is. So that's kind of the hang up right now with people that I'm noticing. That's why we're in beta. Is people are telling me, oh, I don't have the time to write anything. I'm so busy. It's like, well, you don't need to tell me your whole story. You can read any narrative and be like, oh, I remember seeing this type of alien. Or, oh, yeah, I got a closer look at this gate. I remember seeing this type of scribbles on it. I couldn't tell what it was. Just some little things like that. I mean, somebody else will come along and read them and be like, oh, yeah, I actually do remember seeing the symbols. They actually look kind of like this and blah, 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 blah. And then they can just snowball and snowball until people can read it and have a firm understanding of what that experience is, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So it is currently in beta. It is on Facebook, the Quantum Drift. I'm working with one of my graphic artist buddies who actually did design the logo for me. I did put in a request for him to actually create like an actual like logo, like a Nike swoosh,
Oh,
or
yeah.
like the Adidas logo, just a logo. Because right now I just have the title and the tagline. But working with him with that, and then
It looks good, though.
with him
What he did, yeah.
create the galactic map, if you will. And eventually what I would like is to have a website where when you enter the website, you'll see the map of this galaxy that we will all hopefully create. And then you click on certain regions, and then you can inject your own planet or see what people have created in that region, and then you can just kind of dive right in and add your contributions. And then every week or so, maybe even twice a week, depending on what's going on at the time, just input some narratives, and that just helps further the story and hopefully encourage people to be imaginative. It's kind of the whole plan.
Yeah. And it is cool to be able to, just like get out there and like write little things where you don't have to, come up with the whole story. Just like add your own little piece. Like maybe I walked by this thing and I went off and did in my own direction and expand on it that way, like this is what I saw over here, or I saw one of these creatures, or just stuff like that where it's
Right.
just
And then
world building.
what? Right. And then one thing I was trying to establish really early on is I know everybody wants to jump in and play with their buddies. I literally try to set up the story to where when you poof into this place, because this galaxy is so big, even though I wrote that most humans poof into, or blank, if you will, into this one particular gate, but because there's so much going on and there's people are blinking in at random times, it's hard to meet up with your friends, considering you're even there. So that's kind of my subtle way of telling people it's okay to talk with others, to tell your story. Step out of your comfort zone. You don't always need to rely on your friends. Eventually you can meet up with your friends if they remember themselves being in this world. But don't start off with, oh yeah, I blinked in with Adrian and him and I went on space adventures. No, it didn't work like that. How I wrote my the narratives that when I blinked in, I was alone for a while, and I was trying to utilize my my skills in the real world to try to stay afloat, and kind of found a clever way to stay, to get myself rooted and have people eventually come to me versus me trying to wander off and trying to find people. So that was sort of my angle in this world. So again, I haven't read anything yet that you guys have really written. I only read really one, and that was what my coworker said about was it Krylon's Tavern or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember reading that. It's like, okay, that's cool. See, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And then, this was last week or something. I had to go and help out another store that was like an hour and a half away. It was in Culver City. And I was stuck in the worst traffic. And again, the whole point is when you're bored or stuck at work or stuck in traffic, your mind will drift. So I started thinking, okay, what's up with this Krylon's saloon? I started thinking about it. It's like, well, damn, I remember this, and this, and this, and this. And I just came up with this whole thing just off this one comment that one of the beta players wrote about this one particular tavern. It was maybe like a sentence or two. And that turned into a whole narrative, and that is now canon to the story. So that to me is cool, because you'll never be in Star Wars, you'll never be in Harry Potter, but you can put yourself in this world and you can be whatever you want to be. You can be your own hero, or not. You can be you can have a boring desk job in this world if you want. There's no role too big or too small. It's whatever you want to do.
The accountant on this planet.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really haven't read anything yet. I added another person today. So I think maybe on Wednesday I'm going to go through and read what you guys have written, and then that'll determine what kind of live narrative I'm going to hopefully do. So should be interesting.
Yeah.
I did throw out the first. I'm slowly building up a tiny bit of conflict, or a big conflict, but we'll see how it plays out. That's why we're in beta. So, do have a Kickstarter going. Incentives, you get access to the beta. If you donate, whatever, if you don't have the who cares, but if you donate anything, anybody gets immediate access to the beta. I just want people in so they can tell their story. I want to encourage that type of interaction with other imaginative types around the world. Don't be come out of your comfort zone. It's okay. Come and play in the water. It's okay. Nobody's going to judge you. At one point, Tatooine sounded really stupid to an executive, and that was the worst mistake they ever made. I mean, think about it. Tatooine sounds stupid. What is that? Tatooine. That sounds stupid, but it's so beloved. So, don't be shy. Come and play in the water. But another one of the donation tiers is that I'll make a custom narrative for you, and it just goes up from there as far as like the narratives go. And then I'll showcase you and your story and your narrative, and then that all becomes canon to this universe, and then people can read it, and then they can just use that as a springboard to tell their own story.
Right.
That is the Quantum Drift. So it's on Kickstarter right now. I posted the link on my main Facebook. I haven't posted the Kickstarter yet in the beta page quite yet, and I'm still kind of reserved on that. But definitely would appreciate it. Again, I'm running everything off my phone right now, but I definitely need a new computer. But what I would eventually like to do is get some really good sound and audio, or audio and video equipment, so I can make really cool narratives for you guys. Because it is a neat story, and like my personal story is my own personal story from this experience. And eventually it might affect a lot of people. I mean, it all depends on what you guys decide to come up with. So it's definitely pretty cool. At least I think it is. And then right now it is on Facebook. Might move to a Reddit. I haven't quite decided yet. So we'll just see how it goes. But the Quantum Drift, Adrian, I'll give you all the links so you can post them on this thing, and hopefully get some more imaginative types in here to come play in the water. The water's nice.
Right. The space water.
So
the right. Blue milk.
So actually, what's interesting is my one friend, I kind of gave her own like sector of this universe, Maso Terra, which is the area. Have you ever had like a daydream or whatever? You're really stressed out. You find yourself like out in nature, maybe like a tropical beach or something, or just maybe you're out in the wilderness, just very peaceful, serene. Everything is calm. Maybe have you ever had that before, where you just kind of like, God, I wish I could be at the beach right now, and you start to think about being at the beach, or God, I really wish I was on the mountains right now, just away from everybody, and you start to envision yourself in the mountains, away from everybody. You never experienced anything like that? I know I have like several thousand times.
Yeah, definitely.
So that would be the what I call Maso Terra area of this universe, and that has its own. I'm actually working directly with my friend on that one. That's like a special little cornerstone of this universe, and it may or may not impact the overall plot. No spoilers, but there's definitely so the whole concept is that in our day-to-day lives, as our minds drift, and we start having these thoughts and these visions, and just whatever. Why can't we inject that into a shared universe? That's the again just another layer to this. So if you have those thoughts about being out in nature, well, shit, maybe you're just remembering that time you drifted into Maso Terra, and you're just at peace and tranquility. So again, that's I'm not going to get too much more into that. I'm still ironing out the full details of that, but it's definitely relevant to what's going on. So anyway, that's me plugging my project, the Quantum Drift. Hashtag, what do you remember?
Yeah, it's a very cool name and a very cool idea. I definitely dig it. Like you said, it is very reminiscent of No Man's Sky. So if you guys are into that, definitely hit us up and try and get in on this beta. Check out that Kickstarter. Check out the Facebook page. If you guys are friends with either of us on Facebook, shoot us a message and we'll get you in on that. But yeah, it's
yeah. I mean, right now, I mean, I would appreciate anything that's donated towards the Kickstarter, because I really want this to work. The world sucks right now, and I think having something like this could be cathartic towards people. I know when I was running around at the theme park, it was really cathartic for me to just be in pretend land for 8 hours and just not give a crap about Trump or like
The Amazon
bombings
burning
and
down.
shootings. Just it was nice to kind of
Escape.
forget all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this could be cathartic, hopefully, but my overall goal is for people to read this and inspire them. If maybe they'll read something and they'll want to paint a picture of something that was described, or hell, maybe somebody would want to animate this particular battle that took place, or there's no limit. But I would encourage you, people who are inspired, to share what they have created so that it can inspire other people. It's like an imaginary, like, Big Bang, if you will. Because that's the type of thing that I'm trying to spark right now. Just, you can be your own hero. You don't need to pretend to be anybody else. You can be your own hero. So that's all I got to say about that. On script.
Yeah, and like it's I know one of the things that you mentioned was that like a lot of people are saying that they don't have the time to sit down and write all these things, but like you were saying, it doesn't have to be like a huge thing. It could just be a quick little thing. Or I know like one of the first main ones that I submitted or that I posted on it, I actually did while I was at the gym, like working out, like on the stairmaster. I was actually typing this up, and then I was at the gas station finishing it up as I was filling up my gas tank, and then I posted it. I think as soon as I got home.
Right. So that said, going back to what I mentioned earlier, no contribution is too big or too small. Like, as I'm writing these narratives, they are intentionally vague in certain areas for you to inject your own to inject your own story into. Right? They are deliberately vague. And there's a couple in particular that I don't really want to get into, because I'd rather have people go in the beta and read them themselves so they can see what I mean. But there's really no wrong answer, if you will. I mean, I'm trying to create a group that's, I mean, God, it's the internet, but looking at this one web page that's doing a similar thing, one of the first guiding rules is don't be a dick. They're to hopefully expand on this universe, and just from the little bits that I've read, it works really well. It is really, really interesting. So, but yeah, no contribution is too small. If you're reading a narrative and something just as you're reading this, you start to build the mental image, and whatever you see in your head, like, oh, I remember that being purple. I remember seeing a greenish sky. Well, then type it. And somebody will read that and be like, oh yeah, it was definitely like a pastel green color sky, and then poof, there you go. Just like that. It doesn't need to be a big story. It can be something as little as a color or a smell or something. In fact, there's one story where a guy was talking about that this really rancid smell once he blinked into this world, and I could almost just physically smell it just off his description, and then looked like other people were remembering, air quote, similar thing about it. Like, yeah, I remember this awful, awful smell. And so it's neat when you see it working.
Right.
But definitely want to get some more people involved in it. So if anything, guys, like I was saying, do appreciate any help on the Kickstarter. It's mainly to get a new computer going, get the animation and video software going, audio software, and that way I can start releasing some narratives for you guys. Get a website built and just have a place where all of you can go and tell your story. Be Quantum Drift. I have a pretty neat story. I've been wrestling with this idea for I would say pieces of the story for about 20 years now. So I've just been sitting on this thing and just trying to find like the right avenue to go about it. And about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I finally had that epiphany moment, and now here we are. And this is really big for me because I don't really like to share this sort of thing because I'm very self-conscious of my crap, but I'm pretty confident in this one, and I'm putting a lot of work into it. So would appreciate it if you guys checked it out. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, guys. Definitely check it out. I'll try and get a link, or at least the details in the show notes of the episode, and we'll definitely have it on our YouTube page when I get this uploaded there. But yeah, give it a shot. See what you guys can come up with on it, and see where you drift to, and what you remember.
Yeah, I mean, people. So whatever happened to the drift has already happened. So it's a matter of what do you remember. So again, as we're idle in our day-to-day lives, and your mind starts to drift. What do you remember? That's what it is. If you had a really cool dream, great. What do you remember? Then hopefully it'll inspire others to be imaginative and work with you to come up with a cool story. So would appreciate if anybody were to jump in and just share. Should be fun.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
I did just release a new narrative today that God, the narratives are so dark. Like I think they're dark because this one's what's this one called? Not Quite Neverland or something like that. God, I just wrote it and I can't even remember what I titled it, but it's I think it's Not Quite Neverland or Almost Neverland or something like that. But I don't want to paint it too dark, but again, everybody can tell their own stories. So if you want to go in and tell some shiny lollipops, cool. Tell me all about it. Sure. So, anyways, I think that's about it for us. For today.
Yeah,
Anything
we're
else you
just
want to
at
chime
about
in on?
the hour mark, so um, thanks for listening, guys. Definitely check out the Quantum Drift beta. It's a lot of fun. We're hoping to get more people involved so we can start expanding on the ideas. Check out the Kickstarter, donate if you can, so that we can get a new computer and some of that software going. So some additional content media can start getting created off of this, and then that's just gonna help expand things. And keep an eye out on our Facebook pages too, on our pals page. We'll be posting the YouTube links there, and also any updates. And on our social medias, if you guys know them already. If not, you could probably figure them out. Um, but yeah, and we'll get back. We'll come back in another couple weeks with the third episode of the season. Give us a like and a good rating, a 5-star rating only on iTunes. That'll definitely help us out there.
Oh, sorry, Adrian, we're forgetting the most important thing.
Yes.
Our corporate overlords, infinitecbd.com.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and
Yes.
yeah, no, yeah. Thanks for the reminder. I was actually just using some today. So again with the social media thing, if any of you guys are following me on Instagram, you've probably seen my new tattoo. I actually just took the bandage off of it last night, and I've been applying their Afterglow, which is actually specifically formulated for tattoos or any cuts, anything like that, any like skin trauma, like really. Um, but also for tattoos, and it's awesome. Like it gives it a nice little shine. It disinfects. It helps keep it moisturized, which is definitely an important thing when you have a fresh tattoo, because it starts to get to that peeling phase where it's just like where your skin's peeling a little bit. It's almost like a sunburn, and it's also it gets a little bit itchy. So this stuff like definitely helps with that. So highly recommend it. And obviously, if you've listened to any of our past episodes, we've talked about things like the gummies, like the asteroids, the drops. You really can't go wrong with anything from Infinite CBD. All of it is just high quality product. So that website is infinitecbd.com. And if you
And with promo code TIDE10, you get 10% off.
yep, exactly. That's TYDE 10 Tide 10. and that'll get you 10% off your order. One thing to keep an eye out for is they're actually going to be dropping fairly soon some sour gummies, so that should be pretty exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a very highly requested item for them, and they're finally I guess they finally perfected the formula, and they got it to where they're happy with it. So they should be releasing that pretty soon. So keep an eye out for that. Use our promo code Tide10 and get 10% off of those new sour gummies when they drop. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for us, guys. So uh, make sure that you're following us on Facebook at Pals Exploring. And on Twitter at TV Pals, and check out the Quantum Drift. Check us out again on iTunes
YouTube.
And on YouTube as well.
YouTube.
And you'll be able to follow along with all of our adventures.
So, all right, guys, thanks for listening.
Keep watching the skis, guys. Make sure that you're always watching the skis.